So I thought, I wonder if there's a way. I wonder if there's a way to connect with them, to support them, to love them, to care for them, to share God's love with them. I wonder if there's a way that rather than saying, come to me, to us, to this event that we're putting on, I wonder if there's a way that I can meet them where they are, speak their language and connect in and be Jesus's hands and feet in the online mode. If that is true, that means that we are talking about one of the largest people groups on planet Earth. Like, we are talking about an insane number of people. How many churches, organizations, like ministries, how many do I know that are trying to reach, connect with, care for, and love that people group? I've been in vocational ministry for 13 years. So 13 years as a staff member in a ministry capacity. So I'm 15 if you include my time at Bible college, where I was also volunteering in church and all those kinds of things. But in 2018, so we're talking 6 years ago now, everything changed for me. Now I want you to mentally rewind, because in 2018, what was going on? It was pre-COVID. So everything that you know about how much COVID changed the world hadn't happened yet. Everyone is pre-COVID. The world is a different place. And ministry traditionally and typically is done in the way that you and I grew up experiencing it. On the ground, in person, in a local church, or through church-run community events. I personally ran skate competitions, basketball competitions, various things for our local community. But in 2018, everything changed. See, at that point, I had been working at our church for a number of years. I was running the youth ministry as well as a variety of other areas of the church. And I kind of stopped and thought about something. And I thought, hold on, there are people in this area there are more. There are significantly more people in the area where our church are. Our population has increased. So therefore, statistically speaking, I should be able to see more people at the skate comp, at the basketball comp, at the skate park. And yet, when I would visit there 6 years prior, it looked pretty similar to what it did 6 years later. Not to say that it went down. People didn't stop skating. People didn't stop playing basketball. But it also didn't increase to the way that I would have expected it to, had there have been the same, ratio going up as the number of people increasing. And it got me curious. I was like, if there are more people, where are they? Like what's going on? What changed in the last 6 years to today? And I remember one day after church, standing in this room that we call the function hall. It's where, after church we go and have tea and coffee and biscuits, all that kind of stuff. And I was doing that, and I glanced over to a corner of the room where I had grown up in this very church. And I glanced over to a corner of this room where typically young people would be running around, playing tips, hanging out, whatever, just interacting. But this Sunday, I looked to really see what was going on, and I noticed something quite different. You might guess what I saw. I saw screens. I saw particularly one screen, a rather large screen, bigger than the one that I'm currently holding. It was an iPad, and one young boy was playing on this iPad, playing a video game on this iPad. And there was a group of maybe 6 to 8 other young people, and they were all crowded around this young man with the iPad. There was one person sitting on his left, one person on his right, one person here, and all eyes glued to that screen. But they weren't just in there silently, they were talking. They were talking about the game, but they were talking. And this kid is playing, and then, his turn runs out or whatever, and you hear the mum yell from across the room, "Give your brother a turn." Oh, fine. Hands it over, the next kid starts playing. They were being interactive, they were being social, they were connecting with each other, but in a way that looked so different from what I had been used to, and from what you had probably been used to in growing up as well. It was different. And it made me think, if that's different, I've spent so long walking from our local church to the local skate park. It's maybe 100 meters up the road. But the entire trip there, as I'm thinking about the people at the skate park, I'm walking past dozens and dozens of homes, houses, places that occupy people that aren't willing a lot of the time, or aren't able even, to go out and be at that skate park. So I thought, I wonder if there's a way. I wonder if there's a way to connect with them, to support them, to love them, to care for them, to share God's love with them. I wonder if there's a way that rather than saying, come to me, to us, to this event that we're putting on, I wonder if there's a way that I can meet them where they are, speak their language, and connect in and be Jesus's hands and feet in the online mode. Made me do some research, made me look into the fact that, hey, I'm a gamer myself. I've grown up with the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and then 4. I don't have a PS5 yet. My apologies to the PlayStation fans in the chat. But I thought, I'm a gamer myself, but it's always been a downtime activity. It's the hobby that doesn't get in the way of stuff. It's I get home from a busy, hectic day of pastoral care at church, and then I go, I just need to switch off for a bit. So I go and I turn on the PlayStation and I play whatever game is that I'm enjoying at the time. I have some downtime, I unwind, and then I get on with my adulting duties. I get on with life. I do what it is that I need to do. It's always been this side thing. But then I thought, is there a way to connect with people better through this medium? And it led me on a journey. One of the first things I did is I started Googling things. There's a lot of information out there, and I started looking it up. So I went, how many gamers are there in the world? Some of you might know this. Some of you heard me speak last year. But for those that don't, the current number of active gamers worldwide, by the way, active, is 3.3, over 3.3 billion. That's billion with a B. Over 3.3 billion people globally are gamers, are active gamers worldwide. Now, if you used to play video games 20 years ago and then you got married, had 13 kids, and now you don't have time anymore, you don't count. Sorry, you're not in that statistic. You are not one of the active gamers. But the ones that are active gamers are over 3.3 billion. And this is increasing at a dramatic rate. Now, in case you aren't aware of how big 3.3 billion is as a people group, we don't normally talk with numbers that big. The entire world, okay, every single person on every single continent combined makes up about 8 billion. Did you catch that? 3.3 billion, over 3.3 billion out of 8 billion. That is a big percentage. We're talking over a third of the world's population. And that shocked me because at the time, I remember sitting there and I remember just thinking to myself, hold on. If this stat is true, that means that we are talking about one of the largest people groups on planet Earth. Like, we are talking about an insane number of people. How many churches, organizations, like ministries, how many do I know that are trying to reach, connect with, care for, and love that people group? And I sat there in my office. Like, again, I'm at church having this epiphany. I'm sitting in my office and I think, I know a lot of churches. I've been in the ministry world for a while. I know a lot of churches, but I know none that are intentionally going, this is our people. This is our heart. This is what we do. Our church had a basketball ministry, a skate park ministry. You pick your demographic, and we were probably trying to reach it, but it's like gamers with a forgotten group. Why? Because there is no physical meeting place. There is no, you drive down the street, you look and you go, that's where they are, because you won't see that. You'll see a house. And even if you went into that house, you still probably wouldn't see them because they're in their room or wherever it is that it might be. But in that moment, it made me go, not just as a pastor, but as a Christian, I'm not okay with that knowledge that I can't think of one. And again, this is back in 2018. Today, thankfully, there are more people reaching out into this space, which is brilliant. But at the time, I'm sitting there and I'm like, it doesn't sit right with me. It is not okay with me that I can't think of anyone trying to do this and do this well, with integrity, with accountability, with good governance, with, really invest in this space to reach people and help them know Jesus. And I couldn't. It shocked me. And so I decided that day, all right, I'm going to do something a little different. Today, when I get home from work and I have my little downtime and I turn on the PlayStation and unwind, what if instead of doing it for the reason I was doing it before, to unwind, what if I put my ministry hat back on? What if instead today I will go on this website called Twitch, which was and is the largest live streaming platform in the world. It's, imagine YouTube, but instead of it being a one-way conversation, it talks back. It's actually a lot like what we're doing right now with the live chat, right? So imagine this. I'm going to go live And I'm going to, anyone that comes through those virtual doors, if you will, anyone that comes through and clicks that link and joins this live stream, I'm going to try and just share my faith with them. I'll share my story. I'll share my life. I'll open up and I'll do exactly what I would have done if right now I was sitting at the skate park. I'm just going to do the same thing. Same thing that I've always done. Same thing that churches have always done. I'm just going to do that, but I'm going to do it online. I wonder what would happen. And can I just tell you, it was a profound moment when I first went live. And you know how many people showed up? Incredible. 0. None. I sat there. I looked into a webcam. I talked to myself. It was a great time. It was a fantastic event. You know, like it was powerful moment. And so I thought, you know what? This was going to be my free time anyway. So who cares if no one showed up? Like I didn't lose anything. I didn't pay money to do this. I'm just here at home. I'm sitting on my bed playing PlayStation. Let's do it again tomorrow. So I did. The next day, went to church, did everything that I do in my day job, came home, went live again, 0 viewers again. The next day, 0 viewers again. The next day, 0 viewers again. Eventually, though, I saw this little number tick. It ticked up from 0 to 1. And all of a sudden, I knew that someone somewhere was watching. Someone somewhere with full anonymity of the internet was tuned into that moment. And after I got over the terrifying nature of that and all the questions running through my mind of why is some random watching me while I'm sitting on my bed playing a video game, I then said hi. And they typed in the chat, hi. Just like many of you typed in amen a second ago, they typed hi. And I looked and I said, oh, cool. How are you? They said, good, thanks. How are you? Yeah, not bad. And it was very much small talk, okay? Very much small talk. Until a certain point when they asked me a very interesting question. They said, is this what you do for a job? I said, no, this isn't what I do for a job. I work at a church. I'm actually a pastor there at a church in Sydney. They said, oh, they're not from Sydney, by the way. They were, as it turns out, on the other side of the planet from me. But they respond saying, oh, I used to go to church. Really? You used to go to church? Can I ask what happened? Is that okay? Like, could I, we're having some dialogue here. Like, what? How come you used to go to church? They said, oh, yeah. I used to go. My whole family used to go. We used to give. We used to tithe. We used to serve. We were, actively involved in this space, like, all that kind of stuff. But now none of us go. No one. No one in my family goes to church anymore. And it got me curious, even more so. And I said, hey, I'd love to hear your experience. I'd love to hear why, what happened. And without oversharing, they got to tell me all the issues that they had with a church, with Christianity, with faith in general. They came through with a whole bunch of different things. They had the anonymity of the internet, and therefore they were willing and able to unleash and go, you know what? It's been 6 years since I stepped foot into a church, 6 years since I've maybe even spoken to a Christian, but it's time. They said, you want to play ball? Let's play ball. And they started hitting me with stuff. Not only in that day did I get an opportunity to apologize on behalf of the church that neglected them, never followed them up when they stopped showing up, that really hurt them, but I was also able to answer some really basic questions that they had never asked when they were at church because they didn't feel comfortable doing so. It was a bit nerve-wracking. You don't want to pull aside the pastor after the sermon. There's so many people around. It's awkward, but this question was still there, and they asked him, and I got to talk to them, and it was fantastic. By the end of this conversation, I said, do you mind if I pray for you? They said, ... I guess. I can work with that. We can work with, I guess. And so I did. So I closed my eyes and I prayed for them just like I did for you guys just a couple of minutes ago. And just like you did in the chat, I said amen and they typed in the word amen. Only back then it was bizarre. And I was going to say he looked at me, which technically he would have been from his device, but he typed in the chat after that. He goes, I've never seen anyone pray on Twitch before. And I said, me neither, but here we are. I remember having this conversation and afterwards calling my wife. After I ended the live stream that night, my wife was working interstate at the time. I called her and I said, babe, you're never going to believe the conversation that I just got to have this powerful ministry conversation, getting someone who's been so disconnected to Christianity and faith for so many years to not only be open to hearing about it, but to actually genuinely talk about it. And by the end of the conversation, say that they would be willing to be open to visiting a church again, just not the one that they had come from. And it was this incredible interaction. And I told my wife, Sarah, and I was like, Sarah, you know the craziest part? This didn't actually happen during the time that I was being paid to do ministry, right? Like this wasn't part of my 9 to 5. This wasn't part of my day job ministry role. This happened after work. This happened afterwards. This happened in a bizarre place. And I'm like, I feel like there's something in this. And so my wife and I continued on that journey, reaching more and more people in order to see more and more people get to know Jesus. And since then, we have had incredible opportunities over the last now 6 years, since March of 2018. So we are to the month 6 years from then. And it's been incredible seeing the way that God has just opened up conversations with people in countries that I can't even pronounce for us to be able to talk to them. We have connected people in to local churches and discipleship groups, both in person and online. We have sent Bibles globally to all kinds of parts of the world from people just saying, hey, I don't have a Bible, and me going, hey, you know what? Let me do that. Let me send you one. I went to the local Christian bookstore, a place called Coorong, if you've ever heard of it in Australia, and I bought a Bible from Coorong, and I went to Australia Post and I put it in a little envelope and I sent it on to this person. And since then, we have sent so many. You know, that was our origin story, if you will. And I'm from a ministry context where, you know, when I started out as a youth pastor many years ago now, if we had hit 10 young people, like if 10 young people had come through, we would be high-fiving and celebrating, going, there are double digits here tonight. This is incredible. And so we should. We should celebrate that. And churches everywhere should celebrate that, no matter what it is that's going on. All those other ministries, the basketball ministry, the skate park ministry, they still matter and they still definitely need to happen. But here, just to give you some context of the reach and the capacity of this kind of thing, because we set it up well and because we took it seriously and because we did it right. I looked up the stats just before jumping in here with you. Across our channels, we now have not 10 or even 20 or 30, but over 30,000 individual people that are following the channels. So majority of that on Twitch. We've got more on Instagram, some on YouTube, you know, various different platforms. But that's a significant number of people, a number that I struggle to visualize, but it gets crazier than that because those are just the ones that have taken the next step to actually hit the follow button. That's not the number of people we've conversed with, that we've had dialogue with, that we've reached on Twitch alone. So just singling out one platform, and we're on multiple, but on Twitch alone, I looked it up, and the number of unique, and I say this importantly, unique viewers. So if the same person shows up every day for a year, they don't count 365 times. They count once, all right? Next Tempest in the chat, who is one of our regulars who we love, he shows up once. He's one of these numbers, but here's the number of unique viewers that we've been able to connect with since this ministry has started. As of today, it is now 317,121. 317,121. That one, that's you, Next Tempest, by the way. 317,121 unique viewers, which means unique conversations with real people that we get to speak to and connect with in their world. And it is a profoundly impactful opportunity that I don't take for granted for a single second, because this is what God has allowed us to do. This is not me being anything special. This is literally God saying, hey, be obedient and be where the people are. This caused me to get to a point where, with no certainty of anything, no income coming through or anything, this is something that I was so passionate about that I resigned from my full-time church job and I moved from full-time ministry into full-time ministry. I just lost the paycheck halfway through. And for those of you that might think, oh, well, that's because you can make lots of money on YouTube. Well, no, I can't, because I set up the ministry as a registered not-for-profit organization so that even if tomorrow $1 million comes through, I don't become a millionaire. I don't get a cent of that. It completely goes to the not-for-profit with signatories on the account that I am not one of, with a board that oversees it, governance, accountability. You know, this is all so important and integral to running an effective ministry. And that's exactly the way that we've set it up. We've set it up as an effective ministry. So for those of you that are watching, right now and are like, that's a lot of things to celebrate, but I still don't get it, I have the unique advantage to give you a live demonstration, if you will, of how this works. Well, how this works is very similar to what you're doing now. Normally, there's some more, upbeat, hypey worship music playing in the background, and it will go from me being on a big screen like this in the stream room, talking about whatever's going on, connecting with people in chat, doing dialogue, to then going, all right, time for the gameplay. Again, we're reaching gamers, so you need that gameplay. And so with a click of a button, all of a sudden I shrink down. Let's zoom that camera in just by clicking, and here we are. I am now dressed as a hot dog, or a jelly bean dressed as a hot dog, if you will, about to run around and play a game together. So this is how it would work, as simple as that. And now we're here. We still have the conversation. We still have the dialogue. The live chat is still up. And yet we can now play a game together as a community, run around, do all those kinds of things. And honestly, I could use up all the rest of my time just showing you all the fun bits and pieces of the practicalities and intricacies of how this works, but I won't, because I know that that isn't relevant or helpful for everyone here. For some of you, you might be like, I need more of this. This sounds like the coolest thing ever. In which case, I encourage you, join me on twitch.tv/PastorSKAR. We can hang out. We can do ministry together. Who knows? But what I will say is that this is a little snapshot of what it would look like. And then seamlessly from there, we would just zoom that thing back in, zoom that thing back out, and we are back here to continue going with the conversation. And, I show you all this for a very specific reason. It's PastorSKAR as a hot dog. Yes, it is. Mustard or ketchup? I'm going to say ketchup. Actually, I'm going to say chili sauce. 10 out of 10 times. Your boy likes spice. I don't know if there's anyone else here that likes spice, but if you do, then there you go. And thank you for all the encouragement in the chat, by the way. I am seeing that. Josh saying, love your ministry, PastorSKAR, so good. Love it. What a ministry from Andrew. Like, you guys are amazing. So thank you. And you will see me randomly do this, and as I just did, I'll read something from the chat and go back into dialogue. And it's a natural mode for us because all of a sudden we're having conversation. 863 wins. That's across 6 years. So, we go all right. Thank you, Josh. Hey, but here's the thing. This conference is called a Digital Discipleship Conference. And so I want to encourage you in something. Digital Discipleship Conference. Let's talk about what your goal should be. If you want to do digital discipleship, I've told you about the reach. I've told you about the impact. I've told you about all these different things. And if you're wondering what is it that, PastorSKAR has learned across these years in ministry, we were doing this before a lot of people were in online ministry. Here's what I want to tell you. Let your goal, and if you're a note taker, write this one down. Let your goal be conversation. Let your goal be conversation, because that is so much more important than just an initial point of connection. So you can connect with people. You can talk to people. I mentioned the stat of our unique viewers on Twitch. I'll tell you why I told you that one, because on Twitch, it's a live streaming platform. We do dialogue. We have conversation. I get to know the viewers get to know me. It is a back and forth interaction that allows for genuine relationship building. I have, since starting on Twitch, met every single one of our volunteers from around the world, mind you. We've got a guy in Kansas, and I literally stayed at his house with him and his wife and their kids, and we had an amazing time. He's in ministry in Kansas. He connected with us online. He's been volunteering with us ever since, basically, and we love that. It is a deep and genuine relationship, but it came from conversation. And this is really important. And the reason why I say I told you the other stat line is because there's another stat line, a more recent stat line, if you will. And it's one that might blow your mind. But the reason why I didn't highlight it is simply this. Across the last month alone on YouTube, okay, we've talked about Twitch. On YouTube, in the last month alone, videos that we have posted have been watched. I'm looking at it now, over 3.6 million times. Over 3.6 million times. You just visualized 10 people to 100 people to 30,000 people following to 300,000 unique viewers on Twitch. Well, across YouTube and Instagram, we've had things watched 3.6 million times. But the reason why I didn't tell you that to begin with is because I don't want you to think that means we had 3.6 million faith conversations, because we didn't. And I don't want anyone to ever inflate numbers or be like, look how much ministry impact. No, that's reach. That's the amount of people that you've had a point of connect with. But have you had a conversation with? Well, perhaps not. because views does not immediately equate to faith conversations. And it's very important that anyone knows this when you're in any sort of online ministry. You could get so many people connecting with you online. That does not mean that you are effectively doing ministry or that you're doing ministry at all. I know, it's a scary thought, but it's really important. It's really important to discern that and differentiate that. And, again, for those that want to write something down, here's another one for you. That connection, right? So that initial point of connection, like those people watching that YouTube video, connection without conversation does not build community. And my old senior pastor would love me for starting all of those with the letter C. He would be all over that. Connection without conversation does not build community. And if you want to disciple people, then you need to build community. You need a mode that people can talk back. You need conversation. You need dialogue. You need them to be able to ask questions, not just hear answers, and actually connect with you. No one has ever watched their favorite YouTuber and been like, man, like we really know each other. No, you don't. You might know about them, but they don't know about you. I know that because I'm on YouTube and I have people that are on YouTube. And unless I'm really intentional about it, it's easy to not know who they are. But with YouTube live streaming, that's different. Or with Twitch live streaming or other modes that require some level of back and forth interaction, it's really important because then you get the dialogue. That's where real discipleship starts. And we are talking about discipleship here after all. I know that my time is running out, and as you can probably tell, there's so much more that I could say on this phenomenal topic. But I want to encourage you in another thing really quickly here. I want to encourage you on simply this, to always, and this is so pivotal if you're getting into online ministry, please, please, please hear this, always be willing to learn and adapt. Not just learn and not just adapt, but be willing to both learn and adapt. And the reason why that is so unbelievably important is because every day technology will increase, things will change, the interests will change, the way that the mode works will change. The ministry that I lead has changed significantly from 6 years ago to today. And I'm telling you right now, it will continue to change. And I need to be willing to not only adapt to those changes, but take the time out to learn, to genuinely learn and understand the people that I care about, because it's the only way I'm going to be able to effectively reach them. I want to close with one final story, if you will. And this is a very recent one. I visited a church recently, and I got to share about the ministry that we do. I told them something similar to this. And a particular, I remember this so vividly, that a particular family came up to me after the service, and they kind of almost dragged their son with them, young boy. And they were like, in their mind, they were like, this is the answer to our prayers because our kid is such a gamer. Like, they are like as much of a gamer as a gamer could be. This kid was into it and also didn't want to have a bar of being in that room at all. You could tell this kid was introverted. You could tell that this kid just didn't want to be there. They were looking down at the floor, awkwardly kind of hiding behind their mum's leg, like the whole time. The mum is pushing them forward, being like, talk to PastorSKAR, he'll understand you. And the kid was like, nope, not today, not happening, no thank you. I would rather go home, no thank you. But something really unique happened. Is I turned to this young man and I said, what games do you play? He ignored me. Nothing. He had already noped out. He was just like, this is not happening today. And so his mum answered for him. Oh, he plays Minecraft. Tell him you play Minecraft. The kid's just like, Mum, leave me alone. And so I looked at him again and I asked him one simple question. Do you play Bedrock or Java? Now, for many of you in the chat, those are just confusing words. What did PastorSKAR just say? To the mum, those were confusing words. To the senior pastor of the church that was standing next to me, those were confusing words. But to that kid, those words meant everything. Because in the Minecraft community, there are two versions of the game and fan bases that are very loyal to those versions. Some play Java, some play Bedrock. I'm seeing the loyalty in the chat right now coming through. Love you guys. Thank you for proving my point. But here's the crazy part. I'm not a Minecraft player. I've hardly touched the game. I could not navigate Minecraft at all. It's not my game. But I took the time to learn because I know that for the people group that I'm trying to reach, it matters. And for this kid, when I asked Bedrock or Java, they looked up and they started talking. And they wouldn't stop talking. Because not only was this kid going to tell me with passion which version of the game that he plays, which I'm not going to tell you because I see, that there are, I don't want to start some controversy in the chat here. But not only did he tell me, but he told me all the reasons why, things that I didn't even understand. But he was telling me that this reason, and the level of passion from this young man was through the roof. And eventually his parents had to almost drag him away to be like, we have to go home. Like we need to go. And the kid just wanted to keep on chatting. I say that for one simple reason, is that conversation was only enabled by me being willing to understand their world and take the time to learn and to adapt and to do whatever I needed to do to be able to engage in conversation in not a one-way medium, but instead do that in a way that is going to be fruitful for kingdom goals and for the ministry. And I still remember that because it was very recently. Like, this isn't from 6 years ago. This was very recently that this happened. But I remember it. And when I was preparing for this, I was like, I want to tell you guys about that because it was such a clear example of the difference that it makes when people feel heard and respected, and like who they are at a deeper level. And sometimes it doesn't even mean needing to know much about them. It's just taking an interest in their interest. And when you do that, it opens up a whole world of conversation and communication, and therefore allows you a unique insight into someone's world to share God's love with them. At the end of the day, that is our goal, always has been, always will be. And I just want to say thank you for listening, for hanging out with me, for being here in this process. I love that the live chat kicked off the most when I asked that simple question. I know that I'm talking to the right crowd. And for all of you who are so confused with the live chat right now, there are many of you, I'm sure, who are like, why are they saying bedrock rocks? And what is happening? This is what I'm talking about. This is the passion.
Thanks so much, Pastor SKAR. Love your passion for ministry. Love your innovation, thinking outside the normal square of engaging with people, having conversations that matter. Appreciate your time today. It's been such a blessing to hear Pastor SKAR's story, Chloe.
Yeah, it has been. And it's really great to learn more about meeting people where they are to build those genuine connections as well. So thank you so much.